Welcome back again, folks, to the show. It's Football Not Soccer. The regular four of us back again. We wave a pleasant farewell to Lee and his Pittsburgh-related antics. We welcome back Wig, who's hopefully done a little bit more research into his running back, so that he actually knows who Reggie Bonifant is before he becomes a big deal.
Sick birds.
Absolutely. So what would you say you found out in your homework week, Wig?
In my homework week, I've found out I'm the kiss of death. That's pretty much what I've found out. Yeah, I had a good long look through all of my teams, and I've really got a knack for
Getting guys down.
Yeah, putting a guy down. It's rough. I put him on my lineup. He can sit on my bench as long as I want. Absolutely fine.
As soon as you play him.
As soon as I put him in the lineup, he's gone. That's it. End of him. Yeah, Tyler Lockett. If you own him, it might be an idea to bench him this week. I'm playing him. In more than one league. It's a death sentence.
Right.
Double ACL.
Yeah, both of them at the same time. Be unheard of, wouldn't it? Almost like a player retiring halfway through the season. That was kind of a unique one, wasn't it, for the Bills last year?
Oh no, that was halfway through a game.
Yeah.
The first game.
So
That's not
change.
good. Yeah, different vibe about the place this year. Definitely. 5-1. It looked a bit iffy.
I was about to ask you
The
that.
Dolphins put up a good showing. And I think the Bills had in their mind, I know I had in my mind, the next game.
Maybe
We
a little.
play the Eagles next, and that's a much tougher challenge. I think we took a lot for
The Dallas
granted.
Cowboys didn't think so.
Well, no, well.
Let's still tend it, yeah? Damn.
Oh, right, Mahomes is down, that's why you're
Yeah, back to the
interested in
Eagles.
Okay. Yeah, I just felt like, I think they were a bit slow to come out on a bye week. The defence didn't start off well at all, particularly. But they came good in the end. Tre'Davious White, who another candidate for the top cornerback of the year. He got a better passer rating, or he has a lesser passer rating when targeted by opponent QBs than Stephon Gilmore and Simmons that the Titans started for his debut at cornerback. So it's going to be a much more interesting game against the Eagles.
Yeah, as if the Eagles have got any receivers that are even a threat to anyone.
You got Jeffrey. I heard that the Bills were interested in Aguilar, which is annoying.
Do you think they'll still be interested after that deliberate miscatch?
Oh, gosh.
Would anyone want him on the
not.
team?
I wouldn't. I'd be really annoyed if we signed him and Devontae Parker. Devontae Parker I'd be fine with. He scored a touchdown in his last 3 games. He's looking hot to trot. He'd be better than Aguilar.
Anyone would be better than Aguilar.
Yeah, for sure.
Literally, I'd have more chance of catching it. Because I'd try. It's ludicrous.
Yeah, it was unbelievable.
Yeah, it really was. No, if you're a professional athlete, you
can't.
You can't.
You just gave up.
Yeah.
Like, I can't reach that. Well, you could. You definitely could. Just
put your
reach.
arms out. Yeah, it's like, oh no, you didn't throw it directly to me. I'm not interested.
So, all our teams have got interesting matches up this week. We've got the Bills versus the Eagles. So,
Yeah.
oh,
That's us too.
rivalry within the podcast.
Who's the Browns got, Ben?
Wow. They've got a fairly easy going match, haven't they? They've only got the Patriots.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, yeah.
which I was concerned about. I was really worried. I thought there's no way, it's going to be harsh. It's going to be ugly. I've just seen what's happened to the Jets. It's going to be like that. Poor old Baker's going to be there seeing ghosts. But then today, Jarvis Landry is guaranteed the win. So we're fine.
Oh, well.
We're just going to win.
Yeah.
So nothing to worry about. It's going to be cracking. We're going to show the league just
What
how
you're
it's
made of.
done. Just
Okay.
where they've been going wrong.
He blossomed the team, did he?
Interest.
Now he can only win.
That's it. He knows something. He's seen the error in Bill's ways. He's just going to exploit it all game. He's going to tear him apart.
On his own.
Just
and I hope
just
Baker
him.
notices
That's
and
it.
passes him the ball.
The entire game, we're just going to just snap it to Landry all game. He's just going to crush it.
Maybe that'll do it.
Maybe.
No,
No,
He's
it's
got
going
an
to
arm on him.
be. It's going to be interesting. Let's just say that.
Normally,
Yeah.
a team coming off a bye week against a team that isn't coming off a bye week get quite a significant advantage. Just don't think it'll be enough of an advantage to generate a win. And it might be only enough to stop an embarrassment. And even that doesn't seem guaranteed at this point with how the Patriots are doing things lately. They're not just winning games, they're crushing the life and soul out of people.
And
The
Baker's
Jets
mindset.
game. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
It's horrific what they're doing. They're so unnerving the opponent quarterback into making errors, to making mistakes. They never get a rhythm going, and suddenly they're dropping picks, and it's gone. And the game goes away from them.
Was there 5 turnovers or something like that from Darnold?
4 interceptions, a fumble,
Yeah.
and a safety.
It's absolutely overwhelming what they've been able to do defensively.
Yeah.
It's just insanity, and you can't be that just every QB that faces them just shits his pants and goes half cocked and starts throwing measurable picks. They've got to be doing more than just intimidating people with being the Patriots.
It's
Solid play. Every snap is solid play. Pressure, zero cover,
Covers, blitz.
blitzes,
Yeah.
and it's just like they're just putting off. I mean, they're not playing the strongest offense. They're not zero cover blitzing, Mahomes, are they, at peak? It is Darnold that they're doing it to.
Yeah, they're bullying the little boys.
In a way.
Josh Allen threw 3 interceptions against them.
No, that's so unlike him, isn't it?
He got bullied in that game, though. He
Yeah,
got
he did,
bullied.
yeah.
Really did.
Yeah.
They are bullying. And he's playing a lot of inexperienced quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I would love to see him against Green Bay.
Yes.
Let's see
That'd be
if
a great matchup.
Rodgers.
That'd be a great matchup. But that would mean that the Patriots would have a tough matchup. So that's not happened.
And that's not what they paid their money for.
Yeah.
But next week when they play the Ravens and they've got to account for Jackson, who if they start doing that to him, he could well scramble and get 20 yards every time they come after him.
Yes.
The
But
Ravens-
you'd be confident they've got a different game plan in mind. for
Well, yeah,
playing
it's
that
Bill.
game.
You'll come expecting that, and all of a sudden you won't see a blitz all game.
Why I want to see them, because again, it's another inexperienced quarterback.
Yeah, he's in his sophomore season,
I
isn't
want
he?
to see him against someone who's been around, who can change plays at the line, who can think on their feet, who's going to challenge him. That'll be interesting.
Do you think Baker's that man this week?
No.
No, of course he
Jesus
isn't.
Christ. I mean,
Do you
Well,
worry
what
for his
about what
mental
Landry said?
state?
no. No, I honestly don't. I think he's just got unbelievable faith in himself. The only problem is if he starts to blame everyone else around him, is where it could be shaky. They're just going to have to push through this year and start playing more cohesively. This year should be that offense figuring it out.
This was meant to be that year. Last year was the
I don't
figuring
know.
out.
I
This
don't
year's
know.
a step backwards.
I mean, come on. They swapped coaches partway through the year. I mean, he's gone through an off season into this season. Then he's a brand new head coach as well. I mean, you can't just say, right, well, it's win now, it's nothing. I mean, you've been a head coach 10 minutes. Come on, where's your Super Bowl ring?
But when the Browns are looking for that rebuild and they're getting it going, to
think
switch
they
out
have.
for a totally inexperienced coach.
We were all hyped. Well, a lot of people around this table were hyped for the Jets, weren't they? We all
Yes.
thought,
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
a playoff team. It's not, is it?
Playoffs
I
are
was
strong.
quite hyped for the Browns, and that hasn't happened. But next year, it could be very different. It's not going to be this year.
Browns have said that for a while now.
Yeah. It's the glory days just around the corner. Just
Just around the corner.
Really
No, just around the corner for Jacksonville, though, is it?
No.
Losing your best defensive players, being mediocre on
Darius
offense.
is out, isn't he, Cal?
I mean, I don't even think it's bad that we've traded away Ramsey. Like, it's not great for the team to lose a Pro Bowl corner.
We haven't had him for the past 3 weeks.
But that's it.
Anyway.
It's not. I don't think it's crippling for the team, and I think defensively we're still relatively strong anyway. And the amount of picks that we've got back from it is very much worthy. It's adequate compensation. So I don't think the Jags are in a hole. But going forward, I'm starting to wonder what will the team look like, because I'm not sure we've got the cap space to be able to pay these other players. Like, the expectation is that we'll have to let Calais Campbell walk, and we've essentially been grooming backups for him, simply because the salary fees just can't be sustained any longer. And I think to lose Jacksonville's defensive identity by losing some of its key players on the side of it is going to be a hard thing to go into next year and feel like the team's still in with a shot. Like, yeah, okay, we've got Gardner Minshew, he's a great character, but he's probably not going to be the starter if we can't get rid of Foles to someone else to take the money for it. It's tricky, and if this season gets any worse,
Well, you've got Darius now out for 6 weeks, haven't you? 4 to 6 weeks.
apparently. But again, I don't think it's as bad as it could be, and I don't think it's bad enough to get us particularly worried. I think we're still a team where my expectation was like 6-10 going into the season, and I think that's probably where we'll end up. But I think we'll end up there with the hope for better, and to talk about. We'll talk about it in a way that's like, well, we could have done quite a lot better if this or that hadn't quite gone wrong for us at those points. And we won't be saying, we've gone 6-10, but we were lucky we didn't go 3-13, which might have been the team of previous years, other than our completely outrageous playoff run that seemed to come out of nowhere. But it is what it is for the Jags, really.
It's not very exciting, is it?
Well, I think it is. I think it's a team to be excited about, but we're not necessarily winning the games that we need to be winning. There's points going on the board, though. There's definitely points going on the board, and it could be worse.
Fournette's having a season, isn't he?
Well, It depends how you look at it. He's not picking up the amount of touchdowns that he could have picked up with the amount of carries and distance that he's covered. He's certainly underscoring in terms of, if you compare him to other running backs of an elite level with that number of carries, he's slacking off on the touchdowns more than the others are. And ultimately, those would be points that we would desperately have needed. We've had very close games.
That's not on him though, as much, I don't think.
No, not certainly not. I mean, in the previous game, we had DJ Chark come down and be called at inches rather than a touchdown, and to then have a full set of downs on the one line to still not make the score. Fournette got bounced out twice.
Wow. Okay.
So we need like 6 inches wins us a game. Yeah.
Minshew throws more in the red zone as well than you did with Bortles.
That's true. But then that gives us options, which shouldn't be a bad thing. It makes us
not very good for Fournette owners.
No.
Doesn't really matter. I mean, he's clearly getting the ball this season, and he's not injured, which is great for any Fournette owner I want to speak to.
I mean, that's the miracle.
Yeah.
We're halfway through the season, and he's played
Not missed any time
all season.
Yeah.
I'm touching wood.
Yeah.
The table. I
mean, it's an exciting season, Jan.
I am so excited for that right now.
I'm still thinking about the Bills.
No, it was really close, and again, Sharks performing for us. We fucking love that guy.
What a breakout.
Yeah.
Well, was it really a breakout?
Yes.
I owned him from the get-go. I like the guy.
You didn't like him to be refusing like this, though, right? You'd think it's more of Didi.
Yeah.
Well, coming into the year,
And even Conley.
Yeah.
coming into the year, I remembered Keelan Cole's catch from last year against the Chiefs, which was like OBJ-esque. Like pirouetting, catching it in one hand.
He had
against
another
the
crazy
sideline.
catch this week, didn't he?
Yeah, and I think the underratedness of the Jags receiving core, it was just completely glossed over in the entirety of the off-season. No one seemed to give a snot about the Jags because it's the Jags, who really gives a shit about them. D.D. Westbrook is performing exceptionally well for fantasy purposes, and if you're not looking at him, seriously as someone to pick up in a dynasty league going forwards, I think you're probably not doing it right. The guy is definitely producing with a good target share. It is.
Well, he's not there in a dynasty, is he? Everyone's gone in a dynasty.
Of course. But
Trade for him, yeah.
that's right. And quietly he's putting up very high numbers and still not being talked about around the fantasy experts.
Mm-hmm.
People aren't saying like you should own this guy.
What sort of number? I don't actually know. What sort of numbers is he?
Well, we were talking about it last week, weren't we? The overall scoring for wide receivers. D.D. Westbrook was in at about 11, I think, last week.
Jesus.
Yeah, he's really, really producing.
So Chalk's what, top 5?
I think he was at the time of our last recording. Yeah, I'm not sure if he's still there now. I'm sure if we look this week, because Chark's week was only about like 8 or 10 points, depending on your scoring system. And Westbrook was up there in the top 15.
Just last week's performance, though.
Yeah. What I'm more surprised about is that Keelan Cole hasn't been producing, because he's kind of able to make big plays game to game. You might not see.
Well, I've seen him drop some of the easier
it could
targets.
Be that. It could be that.
And that's what a QB's looking for. Sure, you can make the big plays, but you want
some degree of
consistency.
reliability.
Of course
sure.
you do.
Yeah. Same in any game, really.
Yeah.
If you're constantly worried about what's going to
34.
happen as a result.
34 on the year.
If you look at it, so what was I looking at on a metric? There's a target share one, like total number of receptions and targets and things like that, and he's in the top 15.
Yeah.
But he's been targeted, looks about 8 times a game on average, somewhere
that's
around
good.
there.
Yeah.
So he's getting
his
some
fantasy
volume.
production was typically around the 10 points a game mark.
Yeah, he's working out around the 10 points a game. He had one very disappointing game against Houston, 1 reception on the game from 5 targets. But the rest of the time, Yeah, he's around the 5 target mark. Yeah, he's.
So he's probably due a breakout.
Have a big game. We haven't always got the roughest of oppositions against us, where it does feel like we kind of have.
You've
for
had
the
a
early
tough
run of the
start
season.
to the season, I think.
Yeah. It's okay, we've got some clearer sailing in the future. And while we're on that subject, I'd like to talk about Le'Veon Bell, who's had a really tough run of the early games and probably hasn't scored very well. I think he had one breakout in week 1 where he was like 20 points big. And since then, it's all sort of dwindling off to around the 6s and 8s, depending on your scoring system. And the rest of his schedule is against much weaker run defences. So this might be a great time to trade for someone like Lev Bell. You know, his owners might be a little disappointed with how much they paid to get hold of him. And it might be time for him to move on for another big player. Maybe you've got Devontae Adams and you're thinking, his injury's dragged on a little bit. Maybe I've not got the value I wanted out of him. Maybe I can move him along and pick up someone like Bell.
Yeah.
Bell's a great trade target this week.
Well, he plays the Jags, so it's probably a pretty good target this week.
They've just lost Darius, who is fantastic in the run game.
And then week after is the Dolphins. So
okay, might do well against the Dolphins, but the Jets' offense has not been producing. So you're picking up a good player on a bad offense.
I think that's largely down to Darnold not being fit, though, again.
Okay.
And how he played against the Patriots.
The Patriots game aside,
Okay.
he has shown that he can throw, like he did against the Cowboys.
Okay.
And
Did they beat the Cowboys?
Yes.
Yeah, they did.
That
was exciting, wasn't it?
and this season, even against the poorer sides, Lev Bell's been hitting out at about 12 points a game,
Which is serviceable,
which
certainly.
is great. It's great, but what you're going to have to pay for that, because no one's going to be like, oh shit, Lev Bell on. I don't think he's a too good a pickup.
He's
if you
as
can
low
get
as
him-
he's going to be
Oh, he certainly
before
is.
his price
But
goes
you're
up.
going to have to pay something reasonable for him, and it's a risk because that
So
is
somebody,
a bad offense.
perhaps, I might venture a Fournette for Bell trade. Because you're expecting Fournette to go down at some point later in the season, maybe.
Yeah.
Well, Fournette is very productive at the moment.
He is.
I
I would
think that's a
be.
trade
I
that
would.
could happen.
I as a Fournette owner. Oh,
Because that's where you'd be looking at. Because it is going to be a gamble. You are going to have to gamble that Lev Bell's going to come up from that to your 15 to 20
and
points a game.
Fournette's going to get injured, or
And Donald again nursing an injury.
Well, I was looking to ship OBJ. I was looking to ship
You're always
OBJ.
looking
Yeah.
to ship OBJ.
I didn't want to own him in the first place. But this is a good time to move OBJ.
But you
It
want
is?
to ship OBJ at his actual,
Lowest.
Well, no, he doesn't want to pay the lowest price.
No,
he wants
the top
potential.
value whilst he's
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah. He wants to
Certainly
be
a
like, well,
buyer's
next
market.
week he's
Yeah.
gonna be doing fantastic. I mean, I don't want him for that. I want to move him on for them, but I want you to have him for them. and this is the same. So I mean, yeah, if you can ship OBJ out of his potential, do it.
I think there's a lot more comparative value in Lev Bell than there is to OBJ.
Potentially.
Let's not give people false pretenses, otherwise Cal will leap on the train.
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, high-end targets as they go, for wide receivers, it's tough to get anyone who's performing at the moment. Especially when your Adams is gone and your OBJ's not performing.
He's 3 places above D.D. Westbrook at this point in the season.
There you go.
Well, there's a bye week to factor into that. And then you've had the unreliability of the Browns' offence that may or may not start coming together.
Hopkins not performing.
He will, though, especially now Fuller's.
Well, we can just keep banging this drum, can't we?
Well, what did he get?
talked about it
16
every
points
week.
this week?
He's
Hopkins?
wide receiver 10 on the season.
Yeah.
Not a
Hopkins
bust.
is fine.
He's had a good week 1. And
Well, he hasn't had his bye week yet.
No.
So he is kind of a week up on everybody else, which will inflate his overall standings.
But you got Tyler Lockett is on virtually the same points as Hopkins. And is Tyler Lockett underperforming? Like, are people worried about him with it?
No.
He's doing fine, I think. He's had a couple of weeks where you would have liked him to have got the touchdown, but even without him, he's around 10 points as a floor.
Well, let's have a quick look across the leading scorers at the wide receiver position at this point, because last week was a big one for some players.
The scores for last week were a bit crazy on the top
A little
scorers.
A little bit. Now, obviously, players like Marvin Jones aren't going to be able to replicate their scoring week in, week out. And I'm okay with that as a Marvin Jones owner. I'm happy to fly his flag all day, every day. Because these are the games you put him into your lineups for.
Could you not see Marvin Jones replicating something of that form? Maybe not going quite as big, but
Yeah, maybe.
He'll have another couple of big games by the time the season's out.
4 games out of the 16, I think that's the sort of
he
number you
was
should expect. from him.
38 points last week.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, is it unreasonable to think he could go for 20 points for the rest of the games?
I think that's unreasonable, yeah. Given his past history.
Yeah.
As a Marvin Jones owner in previous years, I've been very comfortable with his production being at 6 and 8 points, because then in future weeks it's 22 and 35. I am completely comfortable owning him in that environment. He very rarely gets absolute dud points in a week, but there's the very real possibility that you could have just an explosive session that just give you an enormous leg up on winning your week in the first place. I'm comfortable owning him.
Certainly a boom-bust player.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, although his bust isn't busting, but he's never drafted as a high pick. Like a couple of years ago, he was wide receiver 4 on the year, and he just doesn't get the respect that he deserves for stuff like that.
A lot of people would have dropped him before this week.
Oh, yeah.
Because
But that's the nature of Marvin Jones.
But he'd gone for 2.5 points.
Yes.
So he went for 2.5 points.
Oh.
The week after he goes for 38 points.
That's
Killing your
That's
week.
Stefan Diggs level.
Isn't
It is killing your week.
Is
2
it?
points can kill your week.
I would maintain a player in my lineup scoring 6 points, no problem.
Then you've got a weak bench.
Yeah.
No, because you're not following what happened in the previous game, you're following what happens across the year, and you're only going to do yourself a disservice by responding to last week rather than responding to what happened the previous year or his career average.
It's very form based, though, don't you think?
No, absolutely not. It's
No?
game flow dependent.
Some
entirely.
players are form
Some,
based.
yeah.
I've no belief at all in the
matchups.
hot hand at all.
Who did they play? Who did
Some players
the
it
Lions
definitely
play? The
affects.
Cardinals?
Packers.
Packers. You've had a relatively good defence.
It's a shootout there, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
When Rodgers went that big, they've got no choice but to start
No, but
throwing that ball.
How many people expected them to? Oh, yeah.
No, it was the way the game went. It forced it that way. Losing Kerry on in the game meant there was going to be very little running
But,
anyway.
yeah, you can't foresee that though. It's a difficult
No.
one to stick with if he's just performed. Who did he get 2.5 points against?
That was the Green Bay one.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was the Vikings, wasn't it? Which was another one that was a bit of a shootout with it.
So the Vikings, he scored 2.5 points.
No.
The Packers, he
2
scored
points
2.5
versus
points.
the Packers.
Right, and then he scored 38 points
Against
against
the
the
Vikings.
Vikings. I wouldn't start him against the Vikings because the Vikings have got a good defence. I wouldn't feel comfortable.
Well, what about this week with them playing against the Giants?
I would start him in that game.
See, I would favour him less going into this game because I think the Lions are going to win it comfortably, even with Kerry on down. And I don't think they'll need a big playmaker like Jones to score big. So he'll probably get some possession points, but I don't think he'll be the touchdown target.
Well, Ben doesn't play boom-bust players all that much.
I don't
Obviously,
like
his lines of-
I don't
it is
like
even
them.
on his face.
They're infuriating because the one week they go big, they're on your bench.
I
Don't put
prefer.
them
Yeah, I do prefer consistency
Yes.
because it's frustrating when you get killed for those 2 points. I prefer. I mean, if a player's getting between six is their absolute floor, then maybe I'm okay. Like in one of my leagues at the moment, I was running Mike Evans and Brandon Cooks, and I hate it because I'm relying on big plays, and that's not what I drafted Mike Evans for. And Brandon Cooks has always had 1,000-yard seasons, and it's just not happening.
That's true.
So off they go. Well, not Mike Evans. You've got to stick with him.
Yeah.
But I'm moving it on for more consistency and that's why I do not like Marvin Jones because he's going to storm weeks and go, oh, I've got 3 touchdowns, but then the next 4 or 5 games he's going to do nothing.
It's not nothing. That's the thing. Is it'll be about the 6, 8, 10 range.
Or
for
2
Jones
points.
most of the time. Most of the time, and there will be ones where he goes a little bit lower, but I'm okay.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with those because I know that Marvin Jones will pay off across the season. And you're looking at consistency game to game. I think if you're not pressured by losing your weeks, you can look at the bigger picture.
That plays a big part.
You
Well,
can
if
say-
you're
This
sitting
is
like
what I
my
was
game
thinking
at
with it,
5,
yeah.
he's suddenly a lot.
I don't have the luxury for it.
No,
Well,
you don't.
it's not even that with it. When you're in those positions, you don't have a choice.
Yeah.
Because you're normally there through injury or because you've drafted poorly. And you don't have the options at that point. I've had it in the past. I know the luxury feeling of having 4 players on your lineup who are going to be consistent 10 to 15 points, maybe a little more, and then you can play a Will Fuller in your flex. Because even if he doesn't go huge, it's nothing too big. But if he does, he might just win the week by himself. You know, a player who can just go for 30 points out of nowhere. Yeah, you kind of want that upside. I like it.
I have certainly noticed, being in the leading position in the different leagues, that I can take a very comfortable approach to how I field my team. Where I can say, I'll field Marvin Jones every week. I don't care about that because the rest of my team is going to score enough somewhere, so I can have OBJ score 3 for the week, and just not care because Chark came in for 25 this week.
Yep. Whereas on the flip side of it, when you're scratching around at the bottom trying to get these wins going,
they're not playing. You want to take.
You're playing players who are potentially going to go big, but they'll have a 1 in 3 games of going big, and you're trying to get them to all go big at the same time, and it's such a lottery that
Marvin's had his bye week. He's had a 20-point week and he's had a 40-point week, and most of the rest have been like 6s and 8s.
Yeah,
it's fine. Yeah. It's totally fine, and that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking for consistency across my team, not from an individual player. And if I'm looking at one player and thinking, okay, he might not have a good week, but he might have a good week, what should I do with him? I'm then looking at the rest of my team and saying, well, who else is likely to have good weeks? Or more of my players likely to have good weeks this time?
Who are your running backs?
Fournette and Cook.
So 2 consistent running backs. It gives you that option of having that flex player who doesn't have to be a consistent player.
Yeah.
Whereas when you're running backs on the other side of it are Derrick Henry and Todd Gurley, who aren't terrible, but aren't going to go bigger than 20 points realistically.
Going into the Dynasty League, that was my notion. So when I was drafting my running backs, I wanted to do players that would get volume. And I didn't care if they would be the most productive or the most efficient backs. So I went for Melvin Gordon, who is neither the most he's not efficient, is he? We know that statistic now, right? But he definitely gets the work. And Fournette, who again gets the work whenever he's on the field.
Yep.
And Josh Jacobs, because I was very confident that he would have no challenge for touches out of that backfield either. And that was my running back situation. I was like, I just want guys that are going to get carries. I don't care what they do with them. I just want them to keep having goes at it so that they can grind out points. Yeah. And there aren't many of them left in the league.
No, there's really not.
Let's face it, the Raiders aren't a team that you want to put a lot of investment into. You wouldn't think, Raiders, they'll score a lot of points this season. It was just a guy that was going to get the ball a lot. And if he got 10 points relatively frequently, then I'd consider it a win at the draft position. But that's where I have had that luxury where my running backs are scoring comfortable points every week, so my wide receivers can go off as they feel like. I get my 40-point digs.
The takeaway from it is if your running backs are set, you get the option of playing the boom bust players.
They are kind of the foundation for your team, aren't you?
If your team's made up of boom and bust players, you're probably not going to go too far with things.
I mean, how many boom or bust running backs do we think there are? I mean, Aaron Jones, I think, is a good candidate this year for being a boom bust running back.
There's quite a lot of them out there with it.
Yeah.
Derrick Henry's getting better.
Chase Edmonds.
Yeah.
No, that's unfair. That's unfair.
A 34-point week?
Yeah, but he's not a consistent running back one. He's been elevated up to that position.
Yeah.
So he's been no points because he's not had opportunities.
And then he's gone boom, so that's bust boom.
Not quite bust if you're not touching the ball in the first place.
Yeah, it's a different setup, but certainly
Carson is a boom bust. He is.
Yeah.
When he's fumbling and getting minus points.
He had a very shaky start to the season. It took him 2 or 3 games to establish himself.
And now he's
But now he's there.
Yeah.
I mean, Penny just isn't getting the look in. It's all the Carson
He was
show.
a
All Carson now.
And it's just hand off. And he's got a very, very high floor.
But it's not hand off though. Because
he's
Russ Wilson's the quarterback 3 on the year?
Well, it depends on what format.
But he's getting.
he's
What
two in
we're
most
saying is
formats.
he's getting enough.
He's getting enough.
to be productive.
Yeah, and as Cal said, that is what you want. You want someone who's going to
bell cow
see
The
carries.
majority shares in the backfield.
It's
But he
so
was-
difficult to get. So
I don't know.
difficult.
A quick run through: 28-3, 16-18, 23-8. That's a lot of ups and downs on it. When he's good, he's very good, and when he's not, he's
some quick math probably puts the average about 12 on that though.
Yeah. Oh, it's nice,
I'm
but
comfortable with that.
it's not more. Henry's more consistent than him. So
Henry's had a very strong season
Yeah.
generally.
So far, yeah.
he has had one bust week,
Do you
but he's
think
had
that
one
gets
good week.
better now with Tannehill?
Tannehill's going to throw the ball more.
Does that allow
More efficiency
more
on
running?
There'll be less
from
running
This-
plays, but they'll be more
This week,
efficient.
no. But in general,
Yes, not
He
against the
might.
Buccaneers.
yeah, not against the Bucks.
I think you might start to see a little bit more inconsistency from him.
Yep.
Because if they start going behind, they have got an option of throwing the ball to win. Whereas with Mariota, it didn't exist. They couldn't throw it. So that'll be interesting. But Henry's one of the top running backs this year. He's fine. And if you've got him, he's consistent. You put him in, you're happy
But
about
that's it. It's the consistency though with it. Rather than being top scorers, it's how they're producing them points.
And there are a batch there, and if you've got them, your wide receivers can be more up and down if you want that. I mean, if you are looking for a hit or miss player this week, you're looking for someone who might go off and who might be on your waiver wires as well. Look at Kenny Stills.
Yeah.
Sneaky
He's out
Kenny.
there.
Yep.
And Will Fuller's gone down. Now, he is not going to be Mr. Consistent, but he might drop.
He has the ability to go big.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Especially if he's slotting in for Fuller and he's taking those kind of routes. But Kiki can also do those deep balls. So,
It's whether he gets the playing time. His snap count has dropped quite a bit recently.
but with no Fuller, it's a
Yeah,
little bit
he's
over.
now taken Stills' position.
If you need it, it's there.
That's it.
And I mean,
Certainly one
Marvin
for looking
Jones might be out there for a few people. Probably not after this week, but
It's unlikely.
these players, if you want to go that
Typically, though,
strategy, are there.
When you're seeing these players who have like one big week every now and again, people will immediately pick him up on the waiver wire, play in the following week where he won't score very well, and then immediately drop him again
Yep.
because they feel like they've missed out on the goods, which isn't the way to deal with players like that.
That is key to this. You will put in a player and you'll take the 2 points, you'll take the 4 points, you'll take the 8 points because you know the 30, 40 is coming. And for a lot of people, me included, that's hard to do.
Yeah.
Because I will go searching out for something better.
Yep.
And it takes a lot of patience to do that strategy. So, that's a very important point.
And it comes with knowing the player. I have owned Marvin Jones in every year that I've been playing, and I am very comfortable with owning him in every team that I have every single year that I play because he's just good and he will come good in certain weeks and you'll win them when you've got no right to because players like that will score massively. I mean, it used to be the same way with Tyreek Hill. Before Mahomes' era began,
Yes.
he was the same kind of a player where he would just randomly give you a 35-point week.
Did
Where in
come to
other
mind.
weeks, it'd be 1 or 2 receptions, maybe 40 yards.
He was down in like the 2 to 4 point range for
Yeah.
2 weeks. Then he'd jump up. Nowadays, when Mahomes is on the field,
Yeah, he's a
his
superhero
floor's 10, 12 points. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And they were sort of similar, comparable players. And, even Golden Tate to some degree as well, are part of the Lions' pass-heavy offense. And it's one of the guys who's going to eat pretty well each week. And I think the Rams are starting to look more like that now as well.
He's now
Where,
part of the Giants offense, though, isn't he, Tate?
well, yeah, for sure. But the Rams' offense of last year, everybody ate. And now it's one person eats per week, if that.
It's tough. It's horrible. I'm
It's a
hoping.
very different Rams offense.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Their offensive line's been...
It's not the same. They're off, and I'm very much hoping they're going to wake up at one point because I've got a lot of woods.
Well,
That's a lot of wood.
And I think you should keep
Um,
hold of that guy as well
yeah.
because I think Robert Woods, he's certainly in the top echelon of receivers, but he's done it with getting the least number of touchdowns. I believe he's one of the only players to have scored less than 3 touchdowns and still be in the top 15.
And I think they played much better when they were using him as much more of a possession receiver. And then going to Cup for more of the breakout plays and...
Third and long or
yeah.
whatever, yeah.
But they're much more funneling it differently. So I'm hoping that there's a change there. But that Super Bowl hangover I can't feel is real. It's just like...
I think Goff's a little bit found out as well.
You've
He's just
said
not
that
very
for a
good.
while.
He's just not very good. Goff is not a good quarterback. He's
the shade.
schemed well, he's propped up very happily by his coaches and those receiving core around him.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp's a phenomenal receiver.
Yes, he is.
And that makes Goff look like an alright quarterback.
Yeah. All his receiving targets are good.
Yeah, having Cooks and Woods as the other wide receivers it'd make Mayfield look
It's called an
fantastic.
embarrassment of riches, that is.
Yeah.
I'm only saying that for the reaction.
Bringing out the shade here.
But no, he would make a lot of quarterbacks look a lot better than they are.
Yeah, certainly Wentz is struggling to look good after last week.
Well,
isn't
Well,
it?
if you gave Wentz those three, then the Eagles would be on the way back to the Super Bowl.
Definitely.
We were going to look at streamings for quarterbacks. It's normally the position that you can do it with. You can't normally stream a running back. It tends to be... that comes from volume, doesn't it, as we've discussed?
Yeah.
Wide receivers, you can stream on a match-by-match basis, but for people who aren't as familiar with fantasy football and don't look a little bit deeper into it, it's tricky to know which receiver will come good against their shadow covers, whoever the cornerback against them for the week is. It's tricky to know all the ins and outs of that, to know which receiver might do well. But quarterbacks, generally speaking, are an easy predictor. You can normally look at how well defenses have done against them, against quarterbacks in previous weeks, and expect a similar level of production. You can see high-scoring games. So Mahomes typically forces opposing teams to score more off their quarterback for fantasy relevance because it's a shootout. The quarterback's going to be relevant. This week, Wig's hot take for quarterback.
Yeah, got a bit of a thought on streaming quarterbacks. Being a Mahomes owner,
Yeah.
it's led me to have to worry about streaming for this week. We saw a bit of a stat about the Bucs defense and being phenomenal against the run, allowing almost nothing in terms of yards.
It's an average about 50 yards a game.
Yeah, around that point, a little less it works out as. So with that in mind, they might be a good option for streaming a quarterback against. And with Tannehill now taking over the reins,
I'd like it to be owned in leagues, not owned in leagues.
not owned in leagues. Yeah, he's going to be free in most leagues. He's a good option to stream just for a week with it. You're going to have had all of the good options be taken over the year with it. People who started streaming have probably settled by now. So you'll see that Tannehill's completely forgotten. Even in the deepest of deep leagues, I managed to pick him up in a sleeper league that's hundreds and hundreds of players deep.
And this is because their variance with quarterback scoring is excessive in comparison to all other positions. It's not impossible, but it's rare that you're going to see a ranked 36 running back halfway through the season suddenly drop a top 12 point scorer.
Chase Edmonds.
It can happen, literally does. But so you can stream running backs. You can. It's just much harder
to stream
it is
running
harder.
backs because you're entirely reliant on injuries. Generally speaking.
Yeah, but with the quarterbacks, I think you're spot on. Yeah.
Yes.
It can happen. You will be amazed at how many quarterbacks in the league will drop a top 12 point in a week. So you can go out and look for a Tannehill, line him up because he will be better than the QB you were running the previous week, who's got a difficult matchup. And I mean, I love streaming quarterbacks. I will always try and stream over having a standard place one because I think it's so dependent. And what you're looking at is high point scoring games, as Cal says, and those good matchups, teams who have had a lot of points scored against them. But it's also good to look out for the teams whose secondaries might have taken an injury the week before.
Yeah.
Whose pass rush isn't quite there. So if you've got
Wait a minute. Sounds like we're talking about the Jags here. We just lost our quarterback and our pass rush is a bit sad.
it might be the case. It's just a shame the Jets are going to town, and I wouldn't suggest streaming Darnold with his dodgy toe. But you can stream to a top end quarterback and have a lot of fun and learn a lot while you're doing it, because you're learning a lot about different teams, about different positions.
It is a nice entry point.
Yeah. And from doing that, then you might start to think about running backs. Like, for example, on my team, in our most important league, I've got 4 running backs, and I'll play 3 every week. So I've got to make a decision on which one I put in or which one I take out. Now I've got Chubb. Are you playing Nick Chubb this week if you've got a choice? I mean, he's playing against San Francisco, who are the number 1 run defense.
Patriots.
Sorry.
Yeah,
against
the number 1 defense.
Yeah. Sorry, the number 2. Am I going to play him? Is he worth it? Is he going to just get shut out of the game?
I think you play him.
You play him.
But what are your other options?
So
that's
So this is
what
good. So asking for a friend.
Yeah.
You've got James Conner, Miami.
You play that.
Well,
Okay.
that's a lock.
We're in there.
Yeah.
Then we've got Josh Jacobs,
May have an injury.
who may be injured. He might have a
Who
shoulder
do they
problem.
play either way?
Is Houston.
Houston.
Really?
So the
Next
Texans.
week they play the Lions.
Yeah.
Carson, who's playing Atlanta.
Then Carson and
It's got to be Carson.
and Connor are my two locks
Yeah.
there.
And then Shaw.
And then your flex,
It's
I'd
been
have to
New
see what other wide receivers
I'd be
are
looking.
available.
Yeah, I'd be looking at wide receivers over
Yeah.
them too.
New England are number 2 against the running back. That's what.
Yeah, but
Because number
they're not
one's
gonna
going to
need
be.
San Fran.
Yeah.
Is it San Fran?
San
is.
Fran, yeah.
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 So, I mean, you're looking there at who do you play, and if you know a little bit more about them, then you can start looking at that as a thing.
Yeah.
You know, and for me, I don't really want to play Nick Chubb. I've got a horrible feeling Bill's just going to be like, well, actually, you're not going to play this. I'm going to make Baker throw, and then I'm going to try and embarrass him by just picking all these throws off. Could happen.
It's almost certainly what's going to happen.
But
I wouldn't be
then
playing
does-
Baker coming into this week.
No, I wouldn't
That's a
play
fact.
Baker.
Oh, I
God,
wouldn't
no.
play Baker week in.
But I think
week out.
Chubb will be a reasonable play this week.
But then, it's probably going to end. I've sneaky suspicion Josh Jacobs is going to be injured, so I won't
Yeah.
play him. But you do start to learn a bit more, and you learn about pass rushers. If you've got a QB and they're going up against someone who's just going to keep sacking them, it's not going to be a good day for them. I mean,
Yeah, don't put your QB in against San Fran, I suppose, is the good example of that lately. Boast the Barbarian just seems to be crushing shit, doesn't he?
yeah. But for a while it was the Bears. You want to run against the
Certainly.
Bears?
Yeah.
Camille Mack will just come over, pull his arm off, and he's
The Rams with Donald.
Yeah. Unless you've got Freeman there, just go give him a smack, just put him in his place. What was going on there? No idea.
Pick your fights better.
I mean, he's
It's a
got
serious mismatch.
some balls, and you go and pick a fight with Harold and Donald.
Well, I mean, talking about Connor, that brings up another good QB streamer, doesn't it? Mason Rudolph.
Yep.
Back off his injury, back off a bye week, against a chump defence. I mean, this is a guy that no one really owns. But this is, if there's going to be a week where Mason goes big, it's going to be this week, isn't it?
I've streamed against Miami 3 times this season,
Profit.
and every time I've had a 20-point plus season game.
Yeah.
So why not?
Yeah,
Why
definitely.
not?
Yeah.
No, I've been streaming. The reason why not is people have cottoned on. So
Yeah.
yeah, if you
Yeah,
look
it's
around,
weeks.
Streaming's
to win
great.
for a boss.
Streaming's great, so long as not everybody in the league is
and
doing
when
it.
everyone wants to stream against the Dolphins,
Exactly,
yeah.
yeah.
So anyone whose defense is playing the Dolphins will be snapped up a couple of weeks in advance.
Yes.
Quarterbacks will
That's
start
I'm
vanishing.
holding on to the Bills because we play them. Well,
Doesn't work
another
out
time.
quite so well for you though.
11 points from a defense. I'm happy with
It's
that.
not the 20 points everyone else gets.
Well, no.
It's been a difficult season for streaming in a way, but a better season in some other ways because a lot of the big names have gone. So as we all know, it's been a season of sort of plague for top end quarterbacks. But that means your Minshews, your Brissetts, your Tannehills are still going to have good games.
Oh, yeah.
Brissett has had himself a good season so far.
Yeah.
I mean, hell of a game the last one, production-wise.
Well,
Yeah.
the set's maybe a sneaky one for just rostering up,
Yeah.
keeping hold of. If he might well be gone from now on in leagues.
You'd expect so, wouldn't you?
We do need to make an honorary mention while we're talking on streaming quarterbacks for this week that Fitzmagic is in town. He's rushing touchdowns.
Yeah.
He's always a sneaky outside option for a 30-point week.
I mean, you can if you're picking him, you're always going to have someone who's going to be shooting out. The problem is when he gives the opponent the ball like 3 or 4 times in a row.
5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Who's to know? Roll the wheel.
Yeah, but if you've got now else, go for it. Why not?
Yeah.
Well, if it is that someone like Matt Ryan sitting out this week as well,
Yeah.
this is another quarterback going down, which overall your league, what you've drafted, all the quarterbacks that have been drafted initially are probably missing time at this point. You know, Breeze, Cam, Mahomes. The list goes on. These are starting level quarterbacks that will have been drafted. Yeah, these are players that will have been drafted, and at some point you are going to be scraping around the waiver wire to fill your gaps.
Baker's drafted high.
Well, you mentioned luck with it, a little bit off topic with it, but the Colts are looking sneaky good again.
Yes.
Yeah, even with Brissett. Are we thinking if they'd had luck this year, it could have been the Colts going all the way?
Everyone had that as given
But
before the season
before the
started.
season, people were thinking it. Now we're seeing it happening, that they're doing well, even without him. Imagine if they got him.
100%, it would have been.
Yeah.
I
What
think
a loss for the Colts fans.
We were talking about this before the season had started, before even the pre-season had started up, I think, and we were sort of talking about teams to watch. And I know that the Colts were on that watch list, and then a few weeks, maybe the early pre-season games had gone by and stuff like that, and we're thinking, okay, it's made a bit of a difference. And then Luck retires, and you're like, what the fruit just happened? And then after another couple of games, you're like, actually, maybe the Colts can do a bit more with this, and they start taking some scalps. You're like, they just beat the Chiefs. Is that a real thing? Did they actually do that?
It was last week was the first time Brissett had been sacked in a few weeks as well with it, so
The
offensive line's definitely been doing the job.
Great.
Quentin Nelson.
Yeah.
And while we're on the Colts, missing talking about a wide receiver in particular who did outstanding last week. Totally off all the radars. Is that about second highest scoring wide receiver of the week?
Yeah.
Was he entirely off everyone's radar?
I got him on my I drafted him.
I'm going to say I'd got him listed on options.
I didn't think anything would come of it, but I drafted him.
When Luck was there, I wanted a slice of Luck, and Pascal was that slice I was eyeing.
Yeah, him
because
and Deion
he's
Kane actually.
Yeah,
I was banking
on
my money
Zach.
on Paris Campbell being the one that broke out.
Yeah,
That's it.
yeah. I think
Campbell out
Paris
there.
Campbell, Deion Kane, and
It's
Pascal.
clearly
was
worth a
further
mention
down
at this
still,
point,
but-
though. Like, we were all looking at Colts players that were going to break out this season
it,
because
yeah,
we were all
I know.
expecting them to have a high-scoring season. They were going to do well, go to the playoffs, maybe have a Super Bowl run. So we were all looking at different targets in Colts Town that might be the guy to break out. And I know I invested in Paris Campbell, and that hasn't worked out for one reason or another. So maybe it's Pascal this time that's the boy for him.
Well, Pascal's points were slightly inflated.
Slightly.
Slightly. Well, he scored in the 20s. I think his exact scores 20.
22.8 or
Yeah, but it was I got him down as 28 in half PPR, but he was 2 points for a safety and a point for a tackle, which did inflate him a little. But he was still second wide receiver with it behind Marvin Jones, which is just out of nowhere, really.
It was an odd game.
Yeah.
They basically just picked up Marlon Mack and just went, we're going to stack the box against you. You're not going to run on us. And then they just sort of went, okay.
Let's see what you can do, Brissett.
Yeah, we'll just throw the ball loads.
What?
Yeah.
That's what you want. That's what I'll do.
Just deliver up. And I wasn't complaining. I was very happy about it. But it was odd. I don't think people are going to go in with that game strategy against the Colts again because they're not going to want to get scorched.
No, they're not a one-trick pony.
No,
which
no.
is what I think a lot of people were foolish to presume with Max production so far.
Yeah, looking at ex-Patriot quarterbacks, who's better? Who would you prefer? The slice of the Brissett or the Hanson?
I'd
one?
rather Brissett.
I think I would.
I definitely would because he's got the legs as well. He can do a bit of running.
I would,
And he's put up games where he's had to throw. Not seen that out of Jimmy G.
because he hasn't had to throw.
Yeah.
If we're talking about fantasy production, yes, you want the team that doesn't
he's not
look.
had to throw.
Yes.
True, but
The Niners look invulnerable at this point. Like,
Imagine saying that last year. The Niners look invulnerable.
But
I mean, it's
Did they
true.
look 2-14 last year or something?
Yeah. They were awful. I mean,
didn't go well.
their team looked like one of
That's
Wig's
a
fantasy teams. I mean, they only had about 2 people left.
Oh, no.
It was not good, but this year's outstanding. But that's not come from quarterback play, is it?
No, deliberately though.
Well,
He schemed to not have to.
actually, because Jimmy G got
Oh,
injured
I
last year,
He did, yeah.
didn't
Do you think
Every
he
year.
was the missing element? Maybe he was just there, just
Well,
to look good and inspire the rest of the team.
They picked him up from that trade, and then he went on a winning streak. The team had only lost games, and then when they picked up Jimmy G in that trade, he came in and got 5 wins on the bounce before the season ended. And then when he came back in again, he got injured last year and didn't play much of it. And okay, fair enough, that happens. the team is better with him than without him because their backups are quite poor. But what they've done is schemed up an offense that doesn't need to channel everything through the quarterback in the first place, which is kind of unhelpful for fantasy purposes. But it's good to watch.
It is quite frustrating. One of the top scoring offenses just being so painfully bad for fantasy.
Who's their top wide receiver?
Nobody.
Some guy.
wait,
Dante Pettis.
Yeah.
Right.
Say.
Probably about 40.
No.
73rd.
Yeah.
No way.
No,
He had 2
73rd.
receptions.
Wow.
Nothing last game.
Jeez.
So glad he was in my lineup.
Marquise Goodwin is a big play player, and if he doesn't get that one big play per game, he probably hasn't done anything. Deebo Samuel has a similar sort of profile. They're wanting to use these big out options to take pressure off the run blocking.
But now they've got Sanders.
Yes, and that could be
Massive
an interesting improvement.
plus for them as a receiving core, because I don't think none of the existing players are on that level of Sanders.
But they don't want to use them like that, otherwise they'd have got one sooner. I don't think Kyle Shanahan has got an offense built around.
It's the two
what they have
undefeated
to have.
teams that have made the trades for receivers.
Yeah,
There's something in that.
Definitely.
Obviously, Josh Gordon for the Patriots going out injured is probably the driving force for theirs.
but at this point, you are an undefeated team, and you want to strengthen your roster wherever you can to make the Super Bowl run.
The 49ers will not be able to run on every team. They need to have passing weapons. They haven't got that outside of Kittle,
Well,
out running back.
I would disagree with that because I think all of their passing weapons are worthy of respect. They just haven't needed to use them, but they are their deep outs. You can't. You've got to play sort of back coverage because each of these long distance threats, it can just ruin you on any single play. But then they've got a very, very strong, overperforming run game that you've got to respect as well. And you've got to be basically everywhere on the field at all times to cover all of their players. And you simply can't. And so at some point you've got to prioritise blocking the run. And they'll say, well, that's okay because I'll drop a 40-yard bomb on one of my open players. You know, and Deebo Samuel and Marquise Goodwin left in open field, that's a touchdown. See you later.
I'd like to see more out of Deebo
Yeah.
because I know what he can do, and we're just not seeing it.
Isn't he injured?
Not to my knowledge.
Who's out then? I know there was a reason I put Pettis in.
It's because they were playing against
The Redskins, yeah, but
the
it turned
Reds.
out to be that shower.
without
of it.
Josh Norman.
Yeah.
Did you watch any of the game? You see what kind of state the field was?
Yeah. Every time anyone went over, they were just skidding across the
Yeah.
floor for a good 10 foot.
It was just mud.
Yeah.
You know, it was a horrible looking pitch. Like, fair enough, there wasn't a lot of action during the game.
Did you see the pass for the touchdown and how like Sunday League it looked?
It's so hot. When the ball is wet,
Yep.
it's so hot.
It's not even
Because
just a
the
little bit wet,
gloves-
there was it?
The gloves that they have, if there's water on them, it should make them sticky. But when the ball's wet, it just straight off. It's horrible.
Well, it's even Jimmy G's throw for it. It's almost like his shot puts it forward instead of throwing it.
Probably. It's,
Yeah.
We won't be able
it's
to
hard
get the
to
correct
handle
spin
the
on it.
ball.
That's it, yeah. So it's more like it's a push forward instead of a throw.
A
It's
shot
so
put.
weird, yeah.
Yeah, he didn't play. He had a groin injury.
Yeah, it was,
Did he not? Was he out?
yeah,
he was out.
okay.
it was a very retro looking game, and it just looked.
Is that an
was,
actual
it was.
long term?
No, I think it's just a...
Yeah, I think it was just
Nothing
a one
major.
game, wasn't it?
It misses me by because I don't own him, but I do like what I saw out of him before he came in, and I know I've not seen anything of him in any highlights.
Well, there weren't much to watch in highlights from.
Not from that week,
Nice
no,
game,
no.
no.
Wouldn't matter if he did play.
The slip and slides at the end of the game were the best.
Yeah.
It was just atrocious. It was, yeah, because I was kind of hoping Adrian Peterson would drag one of my poorer teams through, and he was just like...
He started that very first touch of the game, managed the biggest run of the game, probably
Yeah,
something like that, 7-8 yards.
It is amazing that's something to note, from what weather they will play in.
Yep.
That
Well, we're
plays a
coming
big part.
coming for that soon with the
Yes.
snow.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, a lot
Because
of
now
these
you'll
players.
start, when it starts getting rainy, snowy, you'll see the run game increase drastically.
Because, if you're talking British football, they'd probably just thought, hang on a minute, guys, this isn't really working out here. Roll the ball on the pitch a bit and then go in for a cup of tea or whatever. But
Normally
no,
the way,
they're out there like, let's carry on. Everyone's just falling over.
Well, if it's rugby, they carry on.
Yeah, I
The
suppose.
only reason they do it in soccer is because the ball stops, and it's kind of hard to play football when the ball's floating off that pitch.
But it did just seem ridiculous. I know, and snow games,
Yeah.
we'll see.
Well, we've talked about some of the injuries to quarterbacks that have come up, and how it'll force people to stream some quarterbacks. And I'm thinking that Tannehill and Mason Rudolph are probably the two best targets to stream with this week. But we said that it was difficult to stream with running backs. This week there are some running backs whose value is inflated quite a bit from the injuries ahead of them. It remains to be seen if Dave Johnson stays out for any length of time, but Chase Edmonds clearly played an absolute blinder in his absence.
They've since signed Alfred Morris and Zach Zenner.
Yeah, which is
So that
not
suggests that he's out for a while.
Yeah. So I think this is a good time to be firing up Chase Edmonds going forwards.
Do you think they were wrong to play him?
good. Johnson.
I do.
Yeah,
Just
definitely.
think,
100%.
What are they doing? They knew
No,
it was
it's a
injured.
back problem as well, which is going to be
Yeah.
going to play a large toll on a running back.
If you're playing in a winnable game, though, and there aren't that many of them coming by for the Cards,
For longevity,
He's on big money. Give him a couple of weeks.
depends what his contract looks like, doesn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
I've not got the ins and outs of that in front of me to tell you, but if it is that they don't feel like they're particularly invested in because of a potential injury and they don't have to pay him as much if he's not playing, I don't know. If he goes on IR, how much of his money does he not have to get paid? I don't know. Normally these are money decisions, aren't they?
I've got the feeling that Johnson signing up on his new contract, he's getting paid either way.
I don't know how much of it was guaranteed because I know the big deal with Bell was about how much money he was going to get
guaranteed.
all the time.
Yeah, but he settled for quite a bit less, didn't he? With it, it was like 12 million a year instead of the 15.
Well, instead of playing under a franchise tag equivalency, it was about 15 million for Bell. He ended up taking, I think, about 13 million.
But over a longer
the
period.
the vast majority of that was guaranteed rather than none of it. So I don't know how all these different contracts look to whether or not the team are as invested as we think they are. So yeah, this is a good time to be firing up Chase Edmonds. And Kerry on Johnson went down.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
Johnson, good one to target.
Yeah, absolutely.
Ty's looking like the man.
Though Carry On was hardly setting the world on fire.
No, it wasn't.
So unless he was just not doing very well, and this guy's going to come in and be a game changer, I don't know if he's someone I'll be hunting out unless I'm very desperate.
Yeah.
Well, traditionally the Lions' run game has been something to avoid. You know, you could probably take one of its pass catching backs, but after they got rid of Theo Riddick, you were kind of out of options with that one. So,
Although Carry On was catching balls,
for sure,
you know, he was definitely catching
The-
them. So
the-
if Ty carries on like that,
it seemed like they'd invested in Carry On as a team. Like they were going, okay, yeah, we didn't previously have a run game, but that's because we didn't have the right back for it, and they felt that Carry On was the right back, so they were going to use it. I don't
felt
think
like
automatically-
teams saw that they were trying to use him,
Yes.
and they were game planning against him.
Yeah.
So maybe a little bit like Edmonds, you know, you're expecting to play against David Johnson, you know that he likes to try and get outside. Edmonds was straight down the throat. You know,
Different sort of game plan.
the furthest he'd go was like to the B gap. It was almost all straightforward. You know, and that was how he played. And if your defence has planned all week for David Johnson, who likes to catch the ball, you know, out wide on the field and then try and run, and you get Edmonds, who's just running it down your throat, maybe it's a bit of an inflation. I'm not saying that's a reason not to play him. He's going to be the RB1 at the Cardinals. Doesn't say a great deal, but it's going to be an
Certainly
RB1 at the
playable.
team. Yeah, and he was a top scorer last week.
Absolutely. Sat there on my bench staring at
And
me.
mine too. Picked him up, put him in my lineup, took him out, played Latavius Murray. So not the end of the world. Yeah. Could have been better. Wasn't the end of the world. Latavius Murray, is he going to carry anything on? He's literally done nothing behind Kamara. Kamara misses a game, and he's running back too.
I think that with Latavius Murray, people were expecting him to sort of play that Ingram role, but he's not been doing that at all. They've just led
Well, he's not
more
been
on
playing.
Kamara.
Yeah.
He was injured he had a couple of niggled injuries early on, and I think they just thought they'd pepper him in every now and then.
Yeah.
Now he's out, he's shown he's capable of being lent on, and
Well, he was very productive, certainly for fantasy points, you know, if not actual NFL results. In the previous year with the Vikings, he was someone to own for sure.
yeah.
But then Dalvin Cook just had an awful season, so he got asked to do a lot more.
Yeah.
And I mean, is Kamara playing this week?
Yes. No, he's not.
So fire him up again.
Oh,
I don't think he is. He didn't practice, did he?
no, I don't think he is. But they did drop Zach Zenner
Yeah.
for the Cardinals to pick him up. They cut him.
Right. Well, keep an
Which
eye on that one
bodes
then,
well.
folks. But I value Latavius Murray, and if I could have owned him, I would have done before now. And he's definitely a player to similar to how Gio Bernard normally plays, where he's a very worthy backup.
Not this year.
Well, he's been rumoured to be traded.
Ooh, you're going to see a Bengals fire sale on a rebuild.
I think they should.
Yeah.
If there's a team that needs to, they do. But their running game hasn't been in existence. They haven't been able to run the ball at all.
Kamara is still the NP.
Yeah.
So he's just not
Did not
practicing.
practice.
Not practicing. The brace is off his foot, but still not on the field.
I think it's going to be another week.
If they're sensible, but NFL teams seem to love risking the running backs.
Well, yeah. I was watching an interesting bit of I don't know how to describe it as. Normally PFF try and do stat analysis and things like that. There's a section on how running backs are used and their overall production based on comparison to their age. And after 27, you see a very sharp decline in running back productivity.
Yes.
Yep.
Which means essentially teams are encouraged to use and abuse their running backs as much as possible while they're still on the roster, because even if you don't, they won't be useful to you later anyway.
It's a little chicken and the egg, though, isn't it? Most professional athletes, 27's the peak.
Yeah.
26, 27, that's when you're physically at your best. So if you start running them into the ground when they're at the physical peak, by the time the physical peak's coming to an end, it's hard to say if it's through overuse
Yeah,
or otherwise with it.
absolutely. And this is why they're discouraged from making additional contracts once you've played out your rookie contract deal, possibly for your fifth-year option. They probably don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah.
And most teams are shying away from doing that now to give anything to a running back.
I think they'll have to change that.
Yeah, it's got to be something that they'll look at with it. It's a little bit rough.
Well, as sad as we are to see these players being used and abused and let go,
Hearts bleeding for those millionaires athletes every day.
Yeah.
Every day I wake up with a little tear in my eye.
well, just to roll out the back end of this week's episode, I'd like to say a thank you to all of our new listeners. We've had a big uptick in downloads over the course of the last week.
Yeah, we've made 500 downloads. We've broke that barrier. So that's worth celebrating.
It is, with
Cheers.
beer, yeah?
Oh yes. Beer supplied to us by Ossett Brewery.
Thanks, Ossett.
Yeah, Ollie from Ossett Brewery to be specific. So Ollie's kindly donated us a Yorkshire Blonde, which is a fruity pale ale, and a Yorkshire Brunette, which is a traditional Yorkshire bitter.
Is it really? Okay, I should be into that then.
So,
See how she goes.
bottoms up.
Yeah, cheers.
500 episodes, boys. Well done.
Downloads, not episodes. We'll get there though.
Tis the first beer.
Yeah. That's really good.
Oh,
I've
I
got
like-
the Yorkshire Blonde.
If
And
you
that
were...
is
Yeah, me too.
delicious.
A fruity pale ale. It is lovely. What
How's
percentage
your
is
brunette
it?
work?
wearing a flat cap, so right on my street.
Yeah.
Test if she could cook a lasagna, and that'd be it.
No, settled and sorted.
Just hope she tastes as good as that.
It's quite malty, so it's...
Oh, yeah?
Right up your aisle. Well, thanks for tuning in again, folks. We'll give you another episode next week. It's been great to see you.